But now let's take it down to you and I. We don't play in that space. We're not that big. We don't pretend to ever want to be that big. I think we both
Right.
can say. But I think it's been very clear. I am looking for the opportunity over the next 24, maybe 30 months to buy my biggest asset. Now, could it possibly be somebody who overpaid in the 2020 and 2021 area? Yes. Might it be a tired landlord who owns it free and clear and will do seller financing? I'm not
Absolutely.
I'm not sure which one, but I am leaning towards the second because I have the capital, the track record, the history. I have other seller finance deals that they can call and say, yeah, Michael's never missed a payment, all of that. So I think there will be opportunity for folks who have a track record, who play on a smaller scale. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I want to repeat what I did in my book, One Rental at a Time, where I sell houses at peak prices in 1031 into apartments. So
Yes.
that's a play I look to repeat. So that's what I'm thinking about
Yes.
doing. How about yourself?
Absolutely. Very, very similar. After 2008 and 2009, and again, it's not exactly the same this time, but there are lessons that we can learn from that we can take into today. And one of those things is when there's big disruptions in the economy, again, lending tends to tighten. And so it happened post 2008 and 9. Deals were plentiful, Michael. And I was like, oh, I'll just go buy these buildings. I have great credit, 800 credit score plus. My company hasn't laid me off yet, even though I work for AIG. And I've got some other cash flowing things coming in. I live below my means. Surely I can find a bank to do the deal. I couldn't. There were so many banks that just gave me no, no, no answers. And it was seller financing that I went to that allowed me to really start scaling and buying buildings without banks. And so, it's one of the things I'm looking at now. When I go to sell a property, I look to potentially sell on seller financing terms as well, depending on, the deal. And so whether you're a landlord or a buyer or both, they can be very, very lucrative because you just don't need a bank. So you can create a win-win transaction. You can help a seller with their capital gain problem. You can help them delay their capital gain. They might be a tired landlord, but they still want that cash flow. Well, you paying them interest payments is giving them that cash flow. And it
Yeah.
can allow you also to negotiate a lower interest rate term than what you could get from a bank at a higher LTV. And so, what I do anticipate, it's happened over the last year, but I think it's going to get worse, is that banks have already pulled back. We've looked at lots of these distressed deals in multifamily over the last year. And I would argue that multifamily values have probably bottomed. I don't think you're going to see significantly more pain in values. Maybe some in certain areas, but I would argue that essentially we've looked at a lot of deals, but because I used to be able to borrow at 80% just a year and a half ago, now our best case, we're getting loan offers at 55, 60% LTV. So even at those low values, once I add a higher rate and lower debt available, I got to raise more money from investors or from myself, my ROI goes down on those deals and they just don't pencil. Where if they would do seller financing, I could pay a little more. I'd get a higher LTV, a lower interest rate, and I can make those deals cash flow really well. So
Right.
I'm definitely looking at that strategy. It doesn't always work. People kind of forget about it because in an environment where bank lending is, very readily available at high LTVs and low rates, everyone just goes to the bank. But when bank lending dries up, and I think we need to prepare ourselves that we're going to have more dry up of banks as we see more bank distress when we do have bigger defaults and things like office on these banks' books. I think that seller financing is the way that you get a lot of deals done, especially if you're a one rental at a time follower and you're buying, a house, a quad, a 10 unit, something kind of small. They can be extremely lucrative, great long-term hold deals. So that's exactly what I'm looking for as well, Michael.
Yeah.